Earlier today, I had a chance to talk to two people with quite a bit of experience in space. Mark Kelly, senator from Arizona, and his brother Scott. We talked to them a bit earlier. Here's that conversation. Senator Kelly, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to your brother Scott. I know this is not a time where feelings are a big part of the NASA conversation, but I imagine both of you have some pretty significant feelings about what's about to happen today.
Well, feelings are a big part of this. I'm personally incredibly excited for these 4 crew members, but also for NASA and for the country. This is a really big deal to send 4 astronauts into orbit and then all the way to the moon and back.
And Scott, why is it a big deal when people remind me all the time, didn't we do this decades ago?
We did, but we live in a different time. You know, technology is improved, and, you know, our ability to demonstrate this spacecraft and the systems that we're going to need to go, you know, land on Mars or land on the moon, excuse me, in subsequent flights. So even though we went to the moon in the 60s and early 70s, this is a completely different ballgame.
And Senator, how did you assess the risk profile of this particular mission?
Well, any space flight has a significant amount of risk. I mean, launching in a rocket ship with 8.5 million pounds of thrust right on your back, going from 0 to 17,500 miles an hour in just a matter of 8 to 9 minutes in these guys' cases. But then for this mission to go all the way to the moon, around the moon, 4,000 miles past it and back, and hit the atmosphere, going at 25 times the speed of sound, landing under a parachute in the Pacific Ocean, tremendous amount of risk. But here's the thing, Major. We often, have to evaluate the risk and reward on these kind of endeavors, not for this crew personally, but just for the country. And they see that, and they understand that there is a tremendous amount of upside in us doing this and people trying to do hard things. So, yes, it is risky. Is it worth it? Absolutely.
And Scott, you mentioned what this means for NASA. What do you think it does mean for NASA, and how NASA imagines the next 2 or 3 years playing out with the hoped crewed arrival on the surface of the moon by 2028?
Yeah, it's critically important to doing that. So, on this flight, we're going to demonstrate the spacecraft systems and check those out. Subsequent flights, I think, are planned to be in LEO, going up to a future landing on the moon. So critically important. And I can't, having flown in space 4 times, I can't even imagine how exciting this is going to be for the crew and all the people that, spent years working on this mission. It's, like we said earlier, we haven't done this since the 70s, and it'll be a brand new day for space exploration in this country.
You two are crucial to a data set that NASA and everyone attached to any future landing on the moon or any future mission to Mars will evaluate, because you two uniquely went through this twins experience of one on the surface of the Earth, Senator Kelly, your brother in the space station, and what was learned about your bodies, your genetics during that time. Walk my audience through that.
Yeah, Major. So when my brother Scott was still at NASA and getting ready for his 1-year mission into space, I'd already left NASA. I'd been gone for probably about 3 or 4 years at that point. And NASA decided to do a study on the 2 of us because we are identical twins. So we have essentially the same genetic, chromosomes and genetic makeup. And so they did 10 experiments, or 10 universities did experiments on us. Me being the control on the ground, him being the, I would say, the guinea pig in space. And they learned a lot about just the change in epigenetics of the human genome when you put a person in that environment with the radiation and zero gravity, and also a little bit of the stress of being in space for a year.
And Scott, that matters if you're going to spend a long time on the surface of the moon, as we envision, or if you make the very long journey to Mars.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the environment itself, the microgravity environment on the way there and back, the radiation, the stress, the isolation, all those things together can affect our human physiology in potentially a negative way. And that's why the space station has been so critically important to help understand how people, that evolved in gravity can live and work in space in the absence of it. So we've learned a lot, and those things that we learned will help us go, when we put people on the surface of the moon for a long time, and of course later going to Mars.
Naval aviators, NASA astronauts, Americans, excited observers of what's about to happen today. Mark and Scott Kelly, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it.